There was a big story that came in the news just yesterday as we were going off air. P. Diddy, or Sean Diddy Combs, is facing a major Me Too accusation right now from his ex-girlfriend, Cassie, who says that he did a whole lot of very, very bad things that I don't even know if we are allowed to say on air.
The R&B singer you might know from Me and You.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to be honest. I had like a very dystopian moment where when I read this story, I started humming that song in my head.
While you're reading about all these horrific things he's been accused of, you're like, and
then I got kind of like disgusted with myself just a little bit and had to like take a break and come back to it. It was not pleasant.
So it includes rape, sex trafficking, and domestic violence. Also an accusation that he blew up Kid Cudi's car in 2012 when Cassie started dating him.
For a short period of time,
look,
yes.
That's alleged, but the timing lines up. It's a little too convenient for me.
And in this story, it kind of fits into what we were discussing earlier about dating and in the way that these things go. What the Amber Heard story did to people's trust in our institutions as they relate to stories about
the Amber Heards of the world have ruined the possibility of being believed.
And what do you mean? I thought every guy wanted a girl that would poop in his bed.
Shockingly, not on my list, but you know, I'm sure there are some. But like these
your
stories,
old manager might be.
That's right.
These stories are always hard for me to talk about because at the end of the day, you're never going to actually know what happened behind closed doors, and there's a myriad of reasons for all parties to be at least somewhat dishonest in these types of stories. So when it's all said and done, all you can really do is go with your gut instinct. My gut instinct here says he's probably not the greatest guy in the world, as has been, kind of echoed by people that he's
nobody
worked with in the past.
The entertainment industry is, and like they're all sexual degenerates. It's not surprising that things like this would happen.
Okay, but this is what's juicy to me about this story is that this is not the first time that we have heard about whisperings that P. Diddy was like an absolute psychopath. So if you remember, first of all, Cassie signed his label when she was 19. He was almost 40 in 2005. So there's that interesting part. But also he is Usher's mentor. So he started mentoring Usher when Usher was a really young teenage boy. And he has talked before about how he would go to these wild sex parties with Diddy, that there's stuff that he can't talk about. He always gets very uncomfortable when it's brought up. Now, what happened when Justin Bieber came on the scene? Who was Justin Bieber's mentor? It was Usher. Usher takes this 14, 15-year-old Justin Bieber. He was sending him to spend multiple days with Diddy where nobody knows what happened. He's just like this kid hanging out with this like 40-something-year-old man. Why was that going on? What happened in those visits? There's a lot of mystery, and a lot of people think that Justin Bieber's mental breakdowns have something to do with things that have happened to him while he was being mentored by Usher and then also Diddy.
Right. Yeah. That's really weird when you think about the timing.
And there was so Linda, who is from Mostly Peaceful Latinas, was going off on Instagram earlier talking about this. She had more than a few things to say.
P. Diddy's degenerate sex parties.
Let's look at some of what was said here. So this is on there. This was she says everyone in Miami and LA and New York has heard that Diddy what he does behind closed doors. I have a lot to say about this, but she was 19 and he was 39 when he signed her label. She was like a model for Sean John before that. Says when you hear the high value men say they want chicks younger than 25, this is exactly why. He's a mob boss, and Kanye West warned us about him years ago.
What did Kanye say about Diddy?
He said he was a Fed. He accused him of being a Fed because Diddy said something critical of Kanye in the last couple of years, and then Kanye was like, okay, whatever, Fed. So I mean, look, for 80% of the stuff that comes out of Kanye's mouth is like absolute batshit crazy, but I always think like there's some truth to things. And then this is the other thing. Remember that Diddy was married to that woman Kim Porter.
Yes, and that there was definitely overlap between those relationships.
Yeah, so he was cheating on her for sure. I mean, she's said that.
We were on a break.
She has talked about that. She's done interviews about that. But she died, and a lot of people. She just died a couple years ago, and people have a lot of questions about her death as well.
Because they said that she was writing a book too
to expose
this. Well, according to Sean Combs' lawyers, He vehemently denies these outrageous allegations. Cassie's demand of $30 million under the threat of writing a damaging book about their relationship was unequivocally rejected as blatant blackmail. Despite withdrawing her initial threat, Cassie has now resorted to filing a lawsuit riddled with baseless and outrageous lies, aiming to tarnish Mr. Combs' reputation and seeking a payday.
Wouldn't the lawyers be able to then provide us with documentation? Because there's no way she just said this verbally. There had to have been some type of formal thing issued to his
Pay
lawyers,
me $30 million,
like,
or I'm writing a memoir.
I would love it. Like it's in like pasted letters from a magazine.
Yeah, I love that the threat now is I'm going to write a memoir about you. We saw like how much that damaged Justin Timberlake's reputation
He was just out
recently.
He was just out like doing promotion for whatever Trolls 500 or whatever.
That doesn't mean his comment section is going to be
but
anything
the point
but
is
messy
I think he
for-
turned his comments off.
So when now all the articles that are about him going out to promote Trolls whatever says amid crisis with Britney
Right.
Spears' memoir, he's out promoting this book.
So Diddy was like, I don't want that to happen to me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
and then there
So
was
this
also this.
includes like she says he forced her to have sex with male prostitutes while he watched.
Yep.
So he has this weird fetish. That doesn't necessarily mean that he forced it on her, but I don't know. Like there's no way that we can know the truth of the situation. I just think that with a lot of these Me Too stories, these things happen because women have lost the vocabulary to talk about sexual experiences that were denigrating and degrading to their personhood, without citing it as a violation of their consent. Because the consent model for sexual morality has totally taken over all of our discussions about it. When the truth is they chose to do something that in a lot of these situations that felt dehumanizing, that was below their dignity. They're ashamed of it. They don't know who to blame. They blame themselves, but the media and all of their friends are telling them it's someone else's fault. They're not really required to look at their own agency and how they got into that situation. That's really the root of a lot of these Me Too stories.
Yeah. Do you think that a lot of it is also that for us or the average person, our life experience is not ever going to be that of what goes on with these celebrities who are worth hundreds of millions of dollars, have people that work for them. Like a lot of people, like when they watch what was happening with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, they're extrapolating that to mean something for their life. When most of us, it's never going to be our life. So it's weird that we try to find some type of correlation there anyways, because they live a life that is so different from ours.
That's why it's such an injustice that the Me Too movement seeped out of Hollywood, because it was a movement born out of Hollywood. And then
I think it started before then.
Then it went mainstream and people started exposing civilians rather than celebrities.
There was also when rape culture was a huge discussion point around colleges, which was very big before then even. That was a very big issue that people were talking about, and it all kind of comes together. I wonder sometimes when I watch storylines, because I do watch a lot of old Hollywood movies and television, and when you see these storylines about the abusive boss or spouse, how much of it is storytellers telling on themselves, because everyone knows that when you write something, you're oftentimes saying more about your own worldview or your own world experience than you are what you're actually writing, because people write what they know. Now, that's not saying that every writer who wrote about it did something, but they were at least around it or surrounded by it in the industry to be able to write about those type of powerful people.
Oh.
Yeah, we got a $20 one there?
Got a $20 from Philip Reed. There's a movie being released next year by Focus Entertainment called The American Society of Magical, quote unquote, POC. Can't use the actual word. Supposed to be a comedy movie.
I saw it's the one with Jeffrey Wright, right? It looked bizarre.
Is there a trailer?
I think there's a trailer. Yeah, I saw a clip on Twitter. It looks bizarre, like fever dream enough that I might watch it.
Okay, so here's something interesting because I wanted to look it up to see what I was remembering. So when Usher was 14, Diddy moved him to New York to live with him, and he
That's already weird.
Usher has said that Diddy took him to orgies and stuff. And Diddy said in an interview with Kevin Hart in 2012, he mentioned about living with Usher when Usher was a child. We used to wake up together. And then he said, I mean, damn, pause. So that moment in that interview, a lot of people speculated, was that Diddy accidentally admitting that he was also having sex with Usher?
I mean, the beginning of that story alone, like moving out a child star to live with you under your mentorship, that's weird just on its face. And that says a lot about the type of stage parents
100%
rent their kids out to Hollywood, that industry. But yeah, like, but was Usher the one saying that happened?
Yeah, so Usher...
And he was saying it not in a way like I was victimized, but like this happened.
Usher said, P. Diddy introduced me to a totally different set of sex. Specifically, there were always girls around. You'd see people in a room having an orgy. He said that he had been with 3 people at one time and he knew it was wrong, but it worked for me.
And then, he's saying this happened when he was a child.
14 and 15 years old, living with Diddy in New York. That... Diddy took him to orgies. I mean, Usher said this in an interview.
He's worth $1 billion. He's got the money to cover up something like this and keep it from getting out.
But you know how a lot of, like, you hear from young men who are sexually abused and they, at first, like, the way they cope with it is they don't realize it's sexual abuse, or they tell themselves it wasn't. Like, this is so cool. Like, I was 14 and getting to do all this kind of stuff. And then you get a little bit older and then you're like, that wasn't right. You know what I mean?
I mean, even a lot of adult men still hold on to that, like, narrative about teachers who take advantage of male students.
Well, exactly. So I think it's possible that Usher could have been sexually abused, or even Diddy was facilitating sexual abuse of Usher, and then Usher thought it was like cool for a while, and then now as an adult, maybe thinking back, he's like, I probably wouldn't discuss this in the same way. You know what I mean?
Allegedly.
Yeah.
We'll just add
allegedly on all that stuff. And these are the things that, like, there's rumors that are going to circulate for all of these celebrities. Diddy has been known as a ruthless businessman his whole life. Certainly, they made a big deal about him giving all his old record label mates the rights to their music back this year, 20 years after it was actually hugely beneficial to them. So, you know, when you're worth that much money, when you have that much power and influence in the industry, you're going to be able to get away with a lot. I don't know if that's the case in this situation. I think that all of the stories on their own are interesting, but we're never going to really know unless he admits something in open court. And that's the hardest part about talking about these types of stories, is at the end of the day, you really never know.
But these are the types of things that typically people do when they are powerful and bored.
Yeah.
I wonder how much stuff like this, because it always changes, but in different ways. So now we don't necessarily live in the age where it's the music mogul that's going to always get in trouble. Now we've got like family YouTube's channels and all of these other ways. People find a way. Human beings. It's not unique to one group. It's unique to people with power, and the fact that human beings are imminently corruptible under the right circumstances. We see this in influencers. We see this in Hollywood. It's not unique to that industry. It's just very, very prevalent there because of the amount of money, the amount of power that floats around that industry. And it's sad. And it's sad to see something they were together for a long time. They were together for like 15 years, him and Diddy and Cassie, right? So
on and off
till like 2018.
And in 2018, she says when she attempted to break up with him once and for all that he R-worded her.
Yeah.
In his home. Right? Yeah.
I mean, look, everybody didn't want to believe this about R. Kelly either, and
yep. In the chat, James Brighter says Mace can save Diddy. Yes, Mace went on to be a preacher. He's religious and released religious albums after the fact. Harlem World was one of my favorite albums of all time, 1997. Very, very good. So yeah, we'll follow this story as it goes. I do implore everyone that if you do take an interest in these types of stories, read whatever you can for yourself and don't on its face either wholly believe or wholly dismiss everything just based on whatever your biases are, and we all have them. Do your best to read them and find whatever truth you think you can. But it's very, very difficult.
Yeah.
So, thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.